All right, let's talk about how to get smart and stay safe when you're using generative AI. I mean, these chatbots, they're amazing tools for sure. But here's the thing. To really use them well, you've got to know where they fall short. So let's just jump right in with a story that's, well, it's a perfect cautionary tale. Get this. Two lawyers thought it would be a great idea to use an AI for a legal brief. They just trusted it completely. And yeah, it backfired spectacularly. The AI just invented a bunch of fake legal cases, they submitted it, and bam, they got fined and sanctioned by a federal court. I mean, that's the kind of risk we're talking about here. And that whole situation, it leads us to this pretty blunt but really important term from the source material, botshit. And look, it's not just about the AI messing up. That's only half the story. The really crucial part of the definition is the human in the loop. It's when we take that made-up, hallucinatory stuff and just use it without a second thought. So the mistake isn't just the bots, right? It's on us too. Okay, so how do we avoid falling into that trap? Well, first, we've got to understand why these super smart tools make these kinds of, well, dumb mistakes. What's really going on under the hood? And here's the absolute core of the issue. These models, these large language models, they're built to predict, not to know. See, when you or I answer a question, we're using our knowledge, our understanding of the world. But a chatbot, it's more like a superpowered autocomplete. It's just crunching numbers, figuring out the most statistically likely word to pop up next based on all the text it's ever seen. It doesn't know anything. And that leads to this brilliant analogy you see here. Researchers have called these things stochastic parrots. Think about it. A parrot can sound exactly like a person, right? But it has absolutely no idea what it's saying. It's just mimicking sounds. Well, an LLM is kind of the same thing, just way, way more sophisticated. It's an expert at stringing together words that sound right, but there's no real understanding behind them. So when the parrot says something that sounds smart but is totally wrong, that has a name. It's called a hallucination. This is when the AI spits out an answer that looks and feels totally legit, but it's just wrong. It's either untrue, doesn't make any sense, or ignores the info you gave it. And this stuff, the hallucinations, that's the raw ingredient for bot shit. Okay, so we get the problem now, right? The big question is, what do we do about it? Well, this is where it gets really useful. The source material lays out this super practical framework for how to handle this risk every single day. It all boils down to asking yourself two key questions before you even start. And the first one is all about the stakes. Just ask yourself, for what I'm doing right now, how important is it that the answer is 100% true? Are we talking life or death medical advice? Or are we just, brainstorming funny names for a new pet? And the second question is just as simple. How easy is it for me to check the bot's work? Is it something I can verify with a 5-second Google search? Or would I need a PhD and a week in a library to figure out if it's true? Now, when you put those two questions together, you get this really neat framework. Check it out. On one side, you've got how crucial the truth is. On the other, how easy it is to check. And that creates these 4 boxes, these 4 different ways we can and should work with AI. All right, so let's break this down and turn it into a real playbook. We're going to walk through each of these 4 quadrants one by one so you'll know exactly what to do the next time you fire up a chatbot. First up, we've got augmented work. This is the quadrant for when, honestly, the truth doesn't matter that much and it'd be a huge pain to check anyway. Think of the AI here as your creative sidekick, your co-pilot for ideas. This is perfect for stuff like brainstorming, right? Kicking around ideas for a project. The paper even calls it bot-storming, which is pretty cool. But there's a risk here, and it's called ignorance. That means you either miss a golden nugget of an idea the bot throws out, or you just grab a really dumb idea and run with it without thinking. Okay, now for the next box, authenticated work. And you really want to pay attention here, because this is kind of the danger zone. This is for when getting it right is everything, but checking the facts is super, super hard. The AI here is like a high-stakes consultant. We're talking about things like financial forecasting or making a huge business decision when you don't have all the facts. The key is you can't just take the AI's word for it. It's just one opinion. And the big risk here is miscalibration. That is, you either trust it way too much or you ignore a potentially brilliant insight. It's a tough balancing act. All right, moving on to automated work. This is a great one. It's for tasks where the truth really matters, but thankfully it's a breeze to double check. Here, the AI is your super efficient assistant for routine stuff. This is awesome for speeding up things that are pretty standard, like crunching some data or doing a first pass on loan applications. But there's a catch. The biggest risk is something called routinization. It's basically you getting so comfortable that you fall asleep at the wheel. You just start rubber stamping everything without actually checking. And last but not least, we land in what's probably the safest spot on the map, autonomous work. This is where the stakes are low and checking is easy. Here, you can really let the AI run on its own. So you can totally hand off simple things like answering basic customer questions. It's a huge time saver. The only real danger here is what they call black boxing. That's when you start treating the AI like a magic box, and you have no idea how it actually works, what it's good at, and, more importantly, what it's terrible at. Okay, so we've got this awesome playbook now. The question is, how do we pull this all together? How do we use these incredible tools with our eyes open, with integrity, and set ourselves up for success? Well, the source recommends thinking about it in 3 layers of safety. First, you've got tech guardrails, so building better fact-checking right into the AI. Then there are organizational guardrails, companies having clear rules and training. But the final and maybe most important layer is the user guardrail. And that's you. That's us. It's our job to stay sharp and actually use these frameworks. All of this reminds me of this really cool historical parallel from this source. A computer scientist pointed out that this whole problem, it's not exactly new. He brought up this quote from a scholar way back in the 14th century, Ibn Khaldun, who was talking about soothsayers. And he said that in their predictions, truth and lies are all just jumbled together. And that right there is the perfect way to think about this. These chatbots are unbelievably powerful. But just like those old soothsayers, they mix up fact and fiction. They just jumble it all together. And it's on us. It's our job to have the wisdom and now the framework to tell which is which. So the next time you use one, you have to ask yourself, am I working with a reliable tool or just a very, very convincing soothsayer? The answer and the responsibility is all yours.